Welcome to XANDZ Horror Movie Reviews. I am X with your Gen X perspective.
I'm Z with your Gen Z perspective.
And it's Halloween time, so we're back on werewolves.
Indeed.
We're going to do a special triple werewolf movie episode for you tonight. And this is a collection of films that maybe slipped under your radar. Not big budget films by any means. This is all independent cinema, and with varying degrees of things that are interesting, things that maybe are not so great, but each of them has a little something going for it. Now, I will qualify these movies as werewolf movies based on the fact that each one of them uses very obvious werewolf imagery. Doesn't leave anything to the imagination. There's no doubt that some of the images shown are werewolves. Whether or not that turns out to be what you were expecting, that remains to be seen viewer by viewer. All right. We are going to begin with 2013's WER, spelled W-E-R. Clearly, the budget did not exist for a longer name. However, we're going to put the trailer in the comments section, as we will do with all of the films, and what you'll see is a modern day take on what would happen if a werewolf was being investigated by police for murder. It shows things a little bit from the legal side, not fully, not realistically, but a little bit. All right. This movie is brought to us by William Brent Bell, and stars A.J. Cook, Brian Scott O'Connor, Simon Quarterman, Vic Sahay, and Sebastian Roche. Now, we begin with a family that's murdered, and savagely. And the police say this must have been done by an animal, but it's also got some premeditated stuff done by a man. And so this guy is arrested. Now, this guy is a moker. Okay, very tall. They did the makeup in such a way that he's very hairy, very hirsute, and he looks like a werewolf would look, right? He's monosyllabic. He's not active. He just kind of sits there in the police station. It's not a bad effect. I don't know that you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I don't care for it nearly as much. I prefer a little bit more of a crisp quality when it comes to filmmaking, but that's just me. Some people like the found footage style, the aesthetic, and I respect that. But for me, I don't know. I want to see everything in action in 4K. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that.
All right.
You know,
all right.
the werewolf isn't bad though.
I can take it.
It's not bad.
Well,
it's a real werewolf. I mean,
yeah.
you look at that guy and you're like, no. No.
You see this guy in the mall and you turn around. You're like,
exactly.
I didn't bring my silver bullets.
No.
I'm not messing with that.
No, I'm not messing. No. So, points there.
Yeah.
But the style I wasn't a big fan of. And the story writing, we're not going to go heavy into the story, but it's a bit odd, to put it simply. Like, the ending is a little questionable, in my opinion.
I'll catch everybody up with that real quick. So what happens is he escapes. He does a spectacular multi-cop takedown in an abandoned building construction site. It's got some merit to the setup.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some cool qualities to it, but in the end, it doesn't really, bring everything home. He jumps out of a 48-story window and lands in a superhero Iron Man werewolf crouch. And then they know, like, oh, that guy's a werewolf, and the defense attorney is like, werewolf. But when he wasn't, when he was still pretending like he wasn't a werewolf, he did take a little nip out of one of the other characters' arms, and that guy's been hiding it, like you do, because whenever you get bit by someone that's supposed to be a werewolf, you're like, shit, I'm not telling anybody about that. I know what they're going to do. Anyhow, this is where the whole movie starts to go downhill, because I guess they recapture the guy and then they're transporting him, but he's in a van, a police van, and then all of a sudden it shows the van spinning off the road and wrecking, and now all of a sudden the werewolf is loose again, but the other guy turns into a werewolf just in time. And this is where it gets weird, because in most movies, the werewolf transformation, that is the main thing. That's like, you got a werewolf movie, let's see that transformation. These are expensive. They're hard to do. We've seen a lot of bad ones, very few good ones. So this movie decided, what we'll do is avoid that entirely. And the guy that's turning into a werewolf, he shaves himself. There, problem solved. So now we have a naked gremlin who's a werewolf, that he's going to go fight the other hairy werewolf.
We got the goblin werewolf,
and it's easy to tell which is which. They fight in the dark, but you never lose track. And it gets weird, but of course our hero wins the day. So that's basically the summary of WER. It's an interesting take on the werewolf myth. No one's done another movie quite like it. The effects are questionable. The makeup is minimal, but we do get some werewolfy looking stuff. It's not the worst werewolf I've ever seen.
Is it the thing that you would imagine? Maybe, maybe not. For me personally, it wasn't. I wasn't expecting just a hulking man, very hairy man. But, it's just, when I picture a werewolf, I'm thinking of a fantasy werewolf instead of, a real werewolf.
Yeah.
But I like what they did here, because it was like kind of a fun twist. Like, okay, you know what? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I prefer fantasy.
Okay.
So back to you. Do you like fantasy? Do you like real a little bit more? You said you like the real one a little bit more, right?
I can appreciate both. I'm with you. Like, a big, gnarly looking bipedal werewolf from The Howling. I can dig it. That's probably that's my favorite. But I also dig a little 1941, Lon Chaney, hairy face makeup, just the concept of a guy that doesn't turn into a complete animal. It's supposed to be part human, part wolf.
Right,
so
werewolf.
Showing qualities of both is also cool. And I do, like I said, I like the idea that this one tried to incorporate a lot of realistic and modern settings.
Right.
So I would say, this is not a terrible watch. I mean, it's not a great watch. It's definitely for werewolf completists. And other than that, kind of obscure, didn't get great ratings, doesn't even show up on some of the sites. Moving on, we have a little bit more well-known movie, but still independent and not all that well-known.
Right, not a AAA thing, not a $1 million budget, not Marvel.
The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Now, this one's by Jim Cummings. He's got a big fan base, and it was the last movie with Robert Forster. So, and he does his usual great job. It also stars Ricky Lindholm and a bevy of other actors. You enjoyed this one, I know. So
I did indeed.
Tell us all about this movie.
So, Wolf Snow Hollow. Of course, this takes place in Snow Hollow. It's a secluded, snowy town. Not a big population, but it's just a regular town. And they get, is it a new cop? Is he new? That's it, right? New cop in town.
I don't know that
either way.
He's had problems with alcoholism.
Yeah,
maybe he's back on the force.
Something.
Maybe he just got promoted. I don't remember.
Either way,
it's Jim Cummings. He plays the lead role in the movie. He directed it. He wrote it.
The protagonist is a alcoholic cop, and he has an investigation regarding a werewolf attack. And
it was an animal attack.
An animal attack, but they say it's a wolf, but it's too big to be a wolf, and it's very foggy as to what actually attacked the victim.
I will say the trailer does a pretty good job of introducing the concept to you. We will also post that in the comments, so you can look that up after you get tired of watching it. Anyhow, please continue.
Anyhow, the movie shows the protagonist investigating the werewolf victim and all the other victims and all this, and the investigation. And he is convinced that it is not an animal, but it is in fact a man, when everybody else on the force is like, this is obviously an animal attack.
A beast.
Yes, a beast. And he's like, no, it's not. And so throughout the entire movie, there are more hints and more clues depicting, like, okay, this may or may not be a beast. And my favorite part,
don't give away the ending.
I'm not going to give away the ending,
I'm just saying,
but it is my favorite part.
Good twist.
The twist is especially well done, and it is what really kind of just makes me love the movie, all in all, once you get to the twist. And the way they ended, they don't cop out at the end. It's like, okay, I accept that for what it is, and they did a really good job with the werewolf and how they did all of that, and the acting in this movie is not bad. You know, it's questionable
Jim
to some
Cummings is a
degree.
little bit of an overactor,
A little bit.
in my opinion.
And I know I didn't go heavy into like story and analysis, but to be honest with you, it's kind of just an investigation. Like, oh, here's a hint, here's a clue. It's between some characters. He's got a partner, and she, you know, helps contribute to the investigation. And there's just not a lot to get into here. But the way they did the aesthetic and the location, and especially the werewolf itself, is what makes this movie shine for what it is.
Yeah, I will say I agree with that, and the werewolf effects in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
but as they turn out to be what they are very well done in a cool way.
Yes.
Yeah, I did dig that. There's a couple of scenes in this movie where I'm like, yes, nailed it.
There are some winners in there. Yeah. There's some questionable scenes too. Like, I'm not entirely sure, you know, what was
budget ran a little dry.
Yeah,
we could have done some editing.
You know, either way, where it matters, they did put in the effort.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
no, it's a solid independent film.
It's, you know, it's B tier. Like, if you had to rank, you know, all the werewolf movies, you know, it ranks. It's not like, and this is a steaming hot pile of garbage. It's worth watching. If you're a completionist, you know, I think it's worth watching.
It is, but definitely.
Even if you're not,
if you're a completionist, you've probably already seen that.
Perhaps.
I'm going to just go out on a limb.
Like we said, it is a little bit more of an under the radar thing. Did it get noticed by Metacritic or any of those?
Yeah, I was just looking at that. So let's see. It's got 90% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, on the tomato meter. Popcorn meter 64. So critics loved it. The audience was like, but the audience is notoriously hard to please with werewolf movies. Metacritic gives it a 67 critics and 6.3 on the audience scale. Looks like it's got a 6.2 on IMDb.
So in all, audience wasn't a huge fan. You know, they liked it, but not, you know, not so much. And
it's tough to do a werewolf movie.
I can see why, you know, but at the end of the day, they did a good job with the werewolves, in my opinion.
They did, and if you don't ask too much of it, it's tough these days because you're like it's a movie, so you know, so is, you know, Avengers, Infinity War, and you're like
crazy visuals, over the top action scenes,
so
crazy, you know, Sherlock Holmes detective work, and you know, all that. But it's just like,
it's not fair to compare big budget movies with small budget movies. And then sometimes a small budget movie stands up and rises to the occasion. And this one did, but you know, it's not. You wouldn't have felt good about paying to see it in a theater, I don't think.
No,
but when you're sitting at home,
walk away wanting,
flipping channels, and you're like, oh, here's a werewolf movie. You're like, oh, they did a pretty cool job with that.
Yes. So definitely a good streamer movie. Definitely not worth going to the theater and spending however much money, because drinks are, you know, $7.50.
No. You're going to be, you know, $50 into it before you blink. So, you know, definitely. Yeah. That's just for the concessions.
Be considerate. Anyhow, Wolf Snow Hollow.
So, and that was a 2020 film. So we had our 2013,
semi-modern,
2020, and then what we're going to do is we're going to finish off our trilogy with a movie that was released this year. Just a few months ago. actually, and this
In
is
July,
one
right?
that I think so. Yeah, that not many people have seen. There's just not a lot of
There's
talk
not a
about
lot of
this one
commotion with this.
at all. But between the movie poster and the imagery used in the trailer, we'll throw in the comments below. Um, there's a very folk horror-esque werewolf in this movie, and it's another independent film. It's got some decent parts. It's got some long parts. It's got some a little heavy-handed with the grim
I
parts.
think the best word to describe all of them would be confusing.
It's well, all right. Definitely confusing and intentionally so. This one's directed by Michael Patrick Jan, and it stars Ethan Embry, and you've seen him before in stuff. Lee Jun Lee, you've seen her before in stuff. Both of these are accomplished actors. Jeremy Harris is also in it, and a handful of other people that make it happen. The acting is competent. The cinematography is competent. It's all good. It looks werewolfy as far as the
You're not
town
looking
it
at the
takes
movie and
place
going,
in.
"That's an indie film."
Right.
Like that's cheap. They did a good job.
None of these films. Well, no, WER
No.
looks indie film. Snow Hollow looks
I'm
good.
saying no. This movie in
This one-
specific, I'm saying, doesn't look indie. The other ones maybe, but this one doesn't.
Okay, all right. So this one looks good, but it's a movie. I'm just going to put it on the table. It's a movie about mental illness, and you never know if what you're watching is real or if it's something being imagined until certain things start to give the scene away, and then you realize, oh, this is not actually happening.
Right.
The movie, I will say, begins and ends with the same scene. You immediately will ask, why is that happening? And that's how you start with questions, you end with questions. There's some grim material in between. Uh, and, it's not a fun movie, it's not a happy movie. However, there are the scenes with the werewolf element of this movie that are pretty cool. They're pretty effective. All right. And well, we rated the werewolves before we did the movie, and you liked WER the least.
I liked WER the least.
Okay. And we didn't really get to which one we liked better, which werewolf was better, Snow Hollow or Alma.
Okay.
They're very different.
Here's the thing. They are very different. If you're going with a classic, like, beastly werewolf, if you like beastly a little bit more than humanoid, then you're definitely going to like Snow Hollow a little bit more. That's a lot more of a beast.
Okay, that's true.
Alma and the Wolf, a lot more like that could be a guy in a suit looking like the aesthetic, because it probably is a guy in a suit in reality, but
well, it's definitely a guy.
Well, of course,
in reality,
in real life, not probably it is. If you like beastly, Snow Hollow. If you like more human, Alma.
Alma and the Werewolf features. It's obviously a costume, but it's very effective, and regardless of what it is, because that is in question in the movie, because there's a point at which we meet the werewolf, and at first it's a real wolf, and it's a wolf that they got.
It's a wolf.
It's a movie.
Yes,
then all of a sudden you turn around, and there's this
bipedal
being standing there in this get up, and you're like, because it's just screaming with crazy, it's effective. You definitely do not want to see that thing coming at you out in the woods. So there's that. And they did just a very good job presenting that as a scary element, I thought. So other than that, we get a little loose with the writing.
Well, they kind of run with that from like that point onward. That's the roots. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what they run with until the end of the movie. And the visuals, like we said, are effective, but they're the same, and they don't try to evolve. They don't try to evolve anything. Like, let me explain this a little bit better. The story, you cannot piece together what's happening on your own. Not really. Like, without, like, if you didn't know what was going to happen, you wouldn't be able to piece together what, it's not
I
like,
don't know that you ever do piece it together. I mean, as I sit here right now, because it ended exactly where it began, I couldn't tell you what happened and was real versus what wasn't real. We're dealing with a
okay,
character who is very much mental, and can I say that on YouTube? We're just running into the troubles.
okay,
He's got some sort of confusion going on in his cabeza, and so uh, the entire movie is basically a statement of what a man who is in the middle of a personal breakdown, who has broken down before in his life as a reflection of that, what he's putting in his head is what he would have rather have seen, who he wanted to be versus who he actually is, and kind of fantasies of what he wishes had happened versus the reality of what had happened. And it's a statement about alcoholism, it's a statement about drugs, it's a statement about mental illness. Like I say, it's not a happy film, it's not an inspirational film,
but with some very cool werewolf imagery.
but because we have to see all the werewolf movies,
Here we
this
are.
one has some decent werewolf imagery. Anyhow, and it's not, I mean, there's other like police procedurals that are equally kind of like dark and grim, and there's a whole market for that.
Okay.
It's not like way out there as far as all that stuff goes. You've seen all of this stuff before. They just cobble it together in its own little confusing mishmash of insanity.
No, but throughout the entire movie, you're wondering what is real
Right.
and what is not, and even when they are like, okay, this is what happened, still, you're like,
Yeah.
did that happen? Because there's some things that still don't make sense,
Yeah. No, there's
even
a
in
lot.
reality,
Right.
and
Either way.
and it's just boggling.
Yeah.
So,
It is.
all in all, is it a fun watch? Yes, as long as you aren't too disturbed by psychological illness or drug and alcohol consumption and
Violence,
abuse.
self-violence, abuse,
There's
murder.
some gritty aspects of the movie that
Yeah.
some would find disturbing, I'm sure, but as long as you're in it and you're like, okay, it's a movie and you're willing to watch it for what it is and you're accepting of that, it's a fun watch. I found
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
it's
it's not
confusing.
bad.
It makes you think.
Yeah.
It's not just like
It does. This one, out of all three of these films, we watched it. The whole family watched it, and we had more questions about this one than anything I can remember in a long time. To be honest with you.
Yes, they did a good job with that.
Yep.
And you're not like, it's not useless. Like, it's not plot holes. There's
That's true. It would have to have a plot for there to be plot holes.
true.
This is kind of just a
No, but there are questions that can be answered. Like, it's an overanalyzation kind of movie. Like, watch that 5 more times and see what you missed.
Yep.
There's some things that you can immediately pick up on by the end, like, oh, this is why this was odd in the beginning, which I found like, okay,
you go back, you're like, oh, that's what they're doing.
but I mean, rewatch that and see what happens. And then there's some things like, what even on like days, because they only showed in reality like 2 days, but what about like all
2
the
or 3 days?
yeah, like what about all the middle parts, like when he was at the baseball game, for example, and he was under the rafters, like was he where bleachers, was he there, was he the kid,
Yeah,
was
see,
he like,
that's where
it's questionable, and it's like, I don't know,
that didn't happen.
that
And
didn't happen,
there are definitely some clues and scenes where you're watching, you're like, what are they doing? And you're like, oh, this is
and then
not
his
real.
relationship with Alma,
Mhm.
that is also not real.
Yeah, it turns out to be something you're not
and it's
picturing, you're not expecting.
Like, what are we even talking about?
I will say this about this film. it doesn't drag.
Oh,
So
no.
you start to see things unfolding, and then you start with the questions in your head, and it moves along at a pace where you never get bored, and the questions don't get answered. And then you're just kind of building questions and building more questions. They keep the tension nice and tight.
Mm-hmm.
And, then it ends, and you're like, oh, what the hell did I just watch? What happened? But it never gets boring or too slow.
And
There's
they
a
don't drag
couple of scenes
questions
where you're
out.
like, they're not quite as effective as moving the story forward, but not bad. I mean, like, it just,
Even in the stuff where you go back and you realize, like, wow, there was no point to that scene whatsoever.
I don't know that's not really a thing in this movie because of
Well,
what it is.
I don't know. There's some scenes specifically with the police station near the end of the movie that I found to be a little like pointless. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it to see, but I didn't find it to be.
I think it's just like that was kind of like, you're like, I know I'm not watching something real.
Yeah,
At this point, that's
okay.
this is not
All right.
happening.
So maybe that was the bridge to tell you, like,
Yeah,
this isn't real.
right.
And then that is like, so all my questions regarding, all this, now we have the element of what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that
so maybe that was
scene
the point
too,
of that scene.
that scene, I'll give a little bit of a spoiler away, that ends with a transformation, not into a werewolf, but a weregoat. And the devil plays a role in the symbolism in this movie, and there are some definite folk horror scenes that are. It involves two goats as well as a wolf. It gets
Three.
freaky.
We only see
Three goats.
It's three,
Okay.
and
That's
they
two.
only show two.
Okay. Oh.
She said three, though.
All right, and
Said
that's
there's three
probably
goats.
another clue.
So there's a lot to piece
yeah,
together with this one.
there was a
Obviously,
disturbing bonfire scene where there's some questionable
yeah, there's some
interpretive
dancing.
dancing. You're like,
I'm not.
where are we going with this?
I'm not sure.
But it all kind of sorts itself out, I guess, by the end.
At the end of the movie, you're left confused, bewildered, and with questions.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
Well,
so
with that,
that's 3 more werewolf movies you probably haven't seen, but
more than likely,
now you can view the trailers below, and if you like the look of it, check it out. All right, we are going to have more Halloween reviews coming up. We're going to try to catch up on some things that we've seen a lot of movies. We've watched a lot of movies to review. Time being what it is, we haven't had chances to record as often as we would like, but we're going to try to catch up with some things during October.
Indeed, and if there's any Halloween movies that you guys like, let us know. Maybe we'll review
Throw
those.
in the comments. Absolutely. We can tell you if that's on the list, or if we can,
add to the list.
Get it in the mix.
So, with that being said, I'm Z with your Gen Z perspective.
And I'm X with your Gen X perspective. And as always, we thank you for watching.